It's a great pleasure to welcome Deon Geyser, who is the Chief Executive Officer at Liquid Intelligent Technologies South Africa, a place I often drive past and I look at all the developments and how the building has just changed over the last year, Deon, not only changing colors, adding data centers. It's great to see the growth happening in Midrand. Firstly, how are you doing? It's been a few months since we last chatted.
Thank you, Aki, and thank you for hosting us this morning. Yeah, it's actually been a very exciting journey the last 12 months. We rebranded to Liquid Intelligent Technologies in April last year, so it's actually been exactly 1 year with our new rebrand. Outside of that,
Wow.
as you mentioned, we've completed the build out of our incremental data center capacity at our Midrand campus, and a lot of expansion plans, of course, in our data center business. Yeah, and it's been great to actually see how the market is starting to tick up. It's great to see people
No,
also,
it's
returning to offices, and the mix between working from home and working from the office with new ways of working becoming a reality. So no, it's been an exciting journey, absolutely.
Well, great. Listen, I'm glad you spoke about things returning back to normal because we chatted during the pandemic.
Correct,
I mean, we still have the pandemic, right? But I
correct.
mean, the restrictions have been eased, and it seems to be a less pressurized environment as it was last year. But the reality is, given the disruptions that have been caused by the pandemic, technology is certainly shaping the future of work, right? And
Absolutely.
it's interesting to see that you're saying that people are slowly going back to the office, and that is my experience as well,
Mm,
just talking to different people. But it's certainly in a hybrid mode, right? There's still
correct.
people working out of the office 2, 3 times a week, and I think that's what the pandemic has taught us, right? That technology can shape the future of work. Are you seeing something similar?
Absolutely, Aki. We've also at Liquid Intelligent Technologies, we also have adopted a working environment since the start of the year to actually get more people back into the office on a not on a permanent basis, but I would say on a 3+2 basis, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. People are liking the flexibility of doing certain things at home, but to be honest, we also enjoy the fact that in order to change, dynamic and culture in a company, you need to have that face-to-face airtime with people. Um,
Mm.
so it's really good to actually have more people back into the office. It's working really well for us. And Aki, we've been through a large transformation in our business the last 12 months. So as our senior leadership team, we've been actually driving a lot of office time ourselves, but driving, a majority of the office still at home last year during the pandemic. But I think looking into this year, majority of our customers are giving us the same sentiment. 3+2 is sort of the future, how they see work panning out in majority of the tech-based companies, of course. Of course,
Yes.
if you're in a factory-based environment, people are trying to push capacity and factory operations as hard as possible. But yeah, we've seen sort of this hybrid work mode becoming a reality. We talked about it a year ago. What will the post-pandemic world look like? And I think we're starting to see that world starting to become a reality. And with that, of course, the technologies that
Mm.
we talked about back then is starting to really take shape. Which is great to see.
Absolutely, and I mean a lot of the stuff that you said back then is turning into reality, and I think that it's technology, right? That's the big driver around this, and
Correct.
you look at your infrastructure that you've got at Liquid and this massive data center that you guys have built. Considering the topic building smart technologies through intelligent solutions for South Africa's digital landscape, what are some of those smart technologies that you at Liquid are offering that are changing and shaping the digital future of South Africa?
Okay, so I think last year we talked quite a bit about initially the transformation that we were doing from liquid telecoms into liquid intelligent technologies, and the capabilities that we were starting to build out around cloud services, around unified communications, managed services. I think we also talked a little bit about the evolution of voice, the evolution where voice is going to go into Operator Connect, which we launched, Q3, Q4 last year, and we're starting to see our first customers taking up the services around that, which is of course great to see as well. But this morning, I'd like to actually talk a little bit about the evolution, how we see connectivity moving into the SD-WAN space, and what we're building around the SD-WAN space, and specifically also linked to that, the combination of SD-WAN together with our APN or access point name as a service product propositioning. Because if you look at the combination of those two together with our managed service capabilities, is starting to shape customers thinking around the future as they build out their branch offices, as they build out their branch connectivity services, and as they expand their businesses. We talked about people returning back to office, and similarly people are thinking, but now that we're seeing sort of a post-pandemic world arriving, what does it mean for my business in expanding my footprint? And how do I connect, branches traditionally where we looked only at cost cutting, but how do I actually utilize technology to enable my services at a better cost position? And that's where we see SD-WAN and APN services, and then the likes of managed services starting to play a critical role. So as Liquid, we started to build out, our SD-WAN value proposition some time ago. I mentioned to you last year that we started to see quite a nice uptake of that during the pandemic. And we see that growth trajectory actually just growing faster. And the reason for that is, SD-WAN, of course, is offering to customers, the ability to offer and build out their software-defined wired area networks at a better cost point, but with also more internal control. Where they don't only give their networks to one operator and they say, go and manage it on our behalf. Of course, we can do that through our managed services offering, but they actually like the value proposition from a technology layer that enables, whether that be the retailer or a bank, or someone with multi-branch setups, to actually control their own network in a much easier front-end manner, to manage security, to manage quality of service and their experience for their own network. And I think interestingly enough is if you combine that with what we've done with our APN-as-a-service value proposition, more and more we see customers asking us to say that they would like fiber with SD-WAN as a main value proposition and APN or mobile data as a backup service, because a backup service they only need now and again. So they would actually like a service which is not there permanently, but actually just as they use it and as they need it, if the main fiber line breaks due to fiber cuts and construction in roads or whatever the case may be. And what's quite nice about our APN as a service value proposition is, we offer a multi-operator value proposition with a very easy customizable front end for operators to easily manage their own utilization, their own spend, take control of not only what they do with their SD-WAN failover, but also what they do for their workers working from home. And we can do, of course, all of that together with a managed services flavor on the top of that. So it's interesting to see how that combination of the three value elements is starting to play more and more, a key value proposition as we have dialogues with our customers and they see the value of that starting to arrive. So I think that is something that we will see this year taking up quite a bit.
No, it's interesting. I mean, SD-WAN is such a critical component, right, of modernizing your technology.
Right.
You can't stay stagnant in the way you were doing things before, and I think that it really adds that flexibility, that agility into your your IT infrastructure, and a critical component, as you said. And I mean, those benefits that you laid out that those technologies bring are certainly going to be critical as businesses continue to digitize. I mean, you and I touched base like a year ago, and this whole process of digital innovation and infrastructure that organizations are going through, it's certainly not slowing down, and it's continually evolving, and organizations are realizing that they need to modernize the way that they do business. Now, besides technologies, what are the other key factors that you feel as Liquid that would impact the successful rollout of South Africa's digital landscape?
I think for us, Aki, I mentioned to you that when I started out, I really worked with my team that we put our customers at the heart of our business. And we've really gone through a robust journey of meeting. I've personally met more than 300 of our customers the last 12, 15 months. And the reason for that is, to understand their business requirements, where they are as a business, and what people are utilizing our technology for. And one thing I've realized through that specific journey is the fact that, South Africa is a very exciting place for technology and actually for our country. If you look at what people are doing with technology services throughout the globe, and I'm not only talking about South Africa. But secondly, it was to understand what is our customers saying about the market, what are they saying about their business, and what are they saying about us, and what are they requesting from us from a future value proposition, and how do we build trust as a business. And we've really tried to put at the heart and center of the way that we build our technology and the related services around that to try and put customer trust at the heart of their journey. Because more and more with the post-pandemic world, we see the requirement of people saying, I want to be there where you're talking about from this future technology, but I don't know how to get there. Can I trust you? And for us, we've really looking at our operating model to allow us from a sales solutioning as well as from a delivery perspective to actually get us and our customers there. And you know how it goes with new technology. It's not always the easiest thing to do because it really means that we need to walk a journey with our customers. But that's really the sentiment that we as Liquid Intelligent Technologies have, is that our customers are paying our bills, and we need to make sure that what we put on the outside we can actually deliver and deliver quite well. And that's specifically why the managed services flavor I come back to is, we've had to spend time to really make sure that from a delivery perspective we can deliver quite well. And the last 12 months, we've spent a lot of effort in our NPS scores. Our NPS scores the last 12 months have significantly increased in our February rounds, significantly. And that's good to see that the work that we're doing inside the business and inside the engine is giving us the same output from a customer perspective. And I think importantly, if we talk about the solutions that we just added, right, it's important that our customers don't only come to us and say, well, we want to trust you with getting us there, but they also want to talk to us about being a bit of a trusted advisor in their journey from a technology perspective. Many of our customers have put technology under the CFO as an example, because, IT and networks is seen as a cost element. It's not necessarily seen as an enabler in their business. And many times our CIO customers are asking us to come and join them at their executive team meetings and meet their ExCo members because of the fact that they're understanding that cloud services, SD-WAN, APN services are actually a enabler to drive value through technology in their business. And how are we doing that? Because of course we have to eat our own lunch. As a CEO of our business, I have to of course drive sales, drive costs, drive efficiency as a business. And how are we doing that? So I think what we've tried to do is really put our customers at the heart and at the center of our operations. And being able to drive the dialogue and walk the journey with them, from sales right through to the delivery. And that's what we're trying to do in our technology evolution as well.
Interesting stuff. I mean, at the end of the day, this is a journey. It's a partnership.
Correct.
And there needs to be trust involved as well. I mean, all those attributes coming through in what you're saying, and then really truly unlocking the value in using and through this whole process. I mean, when you're given these disruptions that we've been talking about that have been caused by the pandemic, and it certainly has been disruptive for most organizations. Technology, as we mentioned earlier, is certainly the enabler. It's what's been unlocking the value. It's what's enabled business continuity, and I guess it still continues to shape the future of work. What are you seeing with this regard?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll give you two examples on that, Aki, if that's okay. Two of our customers, and maybe talking a little bit back to the two topics we talked about around SD-WAN and APN services. So, Siemens has been a long-standing customer of ours in South Africa. We do some of their corporate office connectivity. We do multiple services for them. And at the start of the pandemic and during the pandemic, they actually came to us and said, hey, how do we actually deal with this from a connectivity and future work perspective? And we started with them the journey and started talking to them about what our APN value proposition can drive, being, multi-operator, because, if you go to the likes of the large operators, they will only offer you their strength value proposition, but as you know, the coverage capabilities across the countries and network, there are some differences and nuances between the networks. And what Siemens really liked from what we did with our APN value proposition to them is we've been able to offer them throughout the pandemic an APN service to move all their workers to home. And now that people are starting to return back to the office, to also take that APN service and be flexible in our value propositioning with them to also expand, optimize, evolve that without necessarily, bulging their network costs and their connectivity costs. So we've been able to actually follow the requirements as their businesses have evolved. And that's also why, they're one of our large partners in the country and a very good partner of ours in terms of the thinking around what APN services and the value proposition Liquid has in that aspect. And I think, going to the SD-WAN example, we've walked quite a long journey with Gold Rush, one of the gambling houses in the country. And pre-pandemic and going into the pandemic, we actually helped them to modernize their WAN infrastructure to SD-WAN. We've taken 20 of their branch connectivity, we've moved that into an SD-WAN, new architecture network, and also a very good reference for us in terms of the initial SD-WAN learnings. And since then, we've actually signed quite a high number of SD-WAN connectivity contracts throughout the last year. And as I mentioned to you at the start, it's one of our key growth products. And I do see that the combination of the two, we will see evolving throughout, the future. I think one thing for us, which is quite interesting as we journey through SD-WAN specifically, is the fact that more and more we're seeing a multi-vendor requirement, coming from our customers. We see one customer saying, look, I like Cisco Meraki, so therefore please give me a value proposition around Cisco Meraki. Someone else coming to us and saying, look, we have some VeloCloud historic relationships. I'd like to please consider that we go down a VeloCloud route. So we've actually opted for the strategy to enable ourselves for a multi-vendor environment, to offer different value propositions to various customers. And we do see that as being unique and valuable because, at the end of the day, as I said at the start, there's certain reasons why people evolve their network architecture in a certain way. And there's history why networks have been built, and history of relationships that we need to honor and figure out how to solve. And we've taken the ask to try and solve that for us internally. And that's why our team have gone down the approach of offering multi-cloud and multi-vendor SD-WAN solutions into the market. And of course, linking that back, as you said at the start, to our data center infrastructure and infrastructure as a service and software as a service value propositions.
Yeah. When you consider the topic building smart technologies through intelligent solutions for South Africa's digital landscape, what would you say are some of the smart technologies that are offered by Liquid that are really changing and shaping the digital future of South Africa? I mean, we touched on some of them, but I guess that you guys are at the forefront, you're leading the way forward, and there's new technologies always coming at us.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question, Aki. If I sort of take a big picture CEO world and not necessarily only a technology deep dive on it. If I look at the current trends of what we see in our customer base, because our customer base is a mix of small medium enterprise, it's a mix of large enterprise, banks, retailers, large corporates. We have a whole host of public sector customers and then wholesale customers. We see sort of a different technology requirement from each of these different markets, where price and capability and evolution is really important. Now, if I maybe go through that briefly, in terms of my thinking, and I'm on purpose going through sort of a more the market requirement perspective and the evolution around that versus purely technology view, is that if I look at what we're seeing in our small medium enterprise environment, people are still sitting with a requirement where they have, their email service potentially at an office. I had a customer meeting last week, and this customer specifically, they use an external IT partner because they don't have the in-house capabilities, and they were hacked. They had a 10-day network outage, as an example. And what we see specifically in that market is still the traditional thinking of, I need to have potentially some of my services at the office. I need to be able to touch and feel it. And they don't fully yet comprehend this requirement of cloud services is completely replacing with better capability at better, potentially, and very likely in terms of the analysis that we've done, the evolution into related cloud services. And utilizing the best of breed of what you can actually get from the likes of Microsoft or AWS or any of the cloud vendors. And looking at the security capability and the reliability capability that offers, it's actually a bit of a no-brainer for people to move down that track. Yet, because the IT capability in those companies aren't that strong, we sort of see a bit of a lagging effect, and that will start to take effect in that specific market segment. And I think that there's quite a bit of work that we are doing from enabling our customers in that specific segment and market to support that move. Where connectivity traditionally was one of the leading product propositions we would offer to that segment. Actually, cloud services is becoming one of the forefront. Cloud services and security, and our cybersecurity value propositioning is really one of the key capabilities that we're offering down that stream. Because people have been hacked, they've had issues, they're trusting their IT shop that they've been trusting forever, but to be honest, the IT shop that they've been trusting haven't evolved yet, if I can put it that way. And that's where we see a key requirement. If I look at the larger enterprises and the medium enterprise segment, I do see the SD-WAN capability and value proposition we just talked about together with this APN world starting to evolve. I think what will be very interesting for us in the coming years is with the spectrum auction that has just been concluded. We do see that mobile, the mobile data landscape will be offering better value propositions than what it traditionally could do because of the lack of spectrum capacity. From our side, as you noticed, we've also acquired incremental spectrum assets, and I think the Minister and ICASA have done a great job to finally resolve, the ambiguity and the challenge around that spectrum dynamic. And I must congratulate both the Minister as well as the regulator for solving that. And I think that that's going to be a future value proposition over the coming years as 4G and 5G capability are being built out. It will start to change the landscape. And that will affect, of course, home, small, medium enterprise, as well as large enterprise connectivity. I don't think necessarily, 5G will completely replace fiber because of the latency capabilities and various others, but absolutely it is an absolute value proposition, which, I think will be very relevant for us going forward. And if you look at the markets where 5G have become a reality, it will impact, our industry. And then
yeah, no doubt.
And then I think in the large enterprise landscape, I also think that edge computing will become quite interesting. If you think about manufacturing use cases, and if you think about mining use cases where, edge computing will allow people to build small little networks in their own manufacturing plant, maybe utilizing 5G as a bearer service, to replace cabling. We are playing around with our first one or two mining use cases ourselves. So we're starting to see that with the investment and the mineral prices where it is, that there's a big investment happening in the mining space, and people are trying to utilize technology to completely get rid of, man capabilities in trucks and in, for example, manufacturing capabilities as well. So automation will become a reality in those large industries, and we're looking at how do we use our technology to support those themes. And of course, very important to think about what AI and machine learning will be doing in those specific large enterprise landscapes.
No doubt.
But yeah, and then I think in public sector, of course, it's absolutely what we see as a public-private partnership model. Is how do we actually? It's not necessarily technology evolution, but it really is how do we partner with government, to solve actually the challenges in public sector. And we trying to, of course, participate and play our role in that and support the government in its initiatives. I think the president and the government is doing a great job to get South Africa back on track. And if you look at the performance of South Africa the last 15 months, I think it's been great. So very optimistic about the country.
Yeah, pretty exciting times, Deon. And you talk about those technologies like fiber and 5G and edge computing. It's just amazing to realize how fast data is traveling, right? And together with AI that you mentioned, and when you start analyzing this data and you start making sense of it, you just realize that we're operating in a totally different technological environment than we were, say, 5 years ago, even 10 years ago. But the fact is that the speed of which data is moving, it's actually quite crazy. I mean, besides the technologies, what would you say are the key factors that you feel as Liquid that would impact successful rollout of South Africa's digital landscape? I mean, you did touch on the infrastructure with regards to the spectrum. I think that is going to be a massive positive for us going forward, and really a critical component of really having a successful digital landscape in South Africa.
I think for us at Liquid, Aki, is the value proposition we started to build out in Liquid Intelligent Technologies. We've had a really good first year. February, our financial years run until the end of February, and our first year as Liquid Intelligent Technologies, we've really had a very good year. And we can see the demand of technologies and the beyond connectivity value proposition that we are offering really start to take shape in our customer landscape. And, as we just talked about it, how do we become heart and center of people's, technology journey? And that is playing quite well for us. As Liquid and as the bigger Cassava group, you would have seen the announcement November last year that as Cassava Technologies, Cassava Technologies was birthed with the idea of bringing together a number of our parent company businesses, which is Liquid Intelligent Technologies and our fiber business, our data center assets, our power business, which is very interesting in terms of given where we are at with the IPP regulations in South Africa. If you also look at what we have in our financial services business, it's about how do we actually, for us as Liquid, our next phase of our internal evolution is how do we actually bring these subsidiary companies closer together and drive a larger value proposition in the opcos that we operate in. And of course, South Africa being one of the largest markets for Cassava Technologies as a group, we're really aspirational as a group about how do we actually drive that value for us in each of these businesses into the country. I think there's huge opportunity for us in the power landscape. If you talked about data centers at the start, our fiber business is doing really well, and while we've built quite a big chunk of fiber the last several years, for us it really is about how do we actually expand metro to where we need to be and utilize the long hauls that we've built. If you just think about NLD 5 and 6 we completed last year, we've unlocked how many of these tier 2, tier 3 towns, and there's still a lot of investment that needs to go into those towns. And then of course in our cloud services and our cybersecurity business, we will be launching our own cyber security operations center later this year. We'll happily invite you. Target date is not being set, but we're looking at end of Q2, start of Q3 timeline, calendar year to actually do the launch of our cyber security operations center in country. So yeah, I think that's also going to be a game changer for us. So really looking forward to that.
Super exciting stuff. Looking forward to it, and look forward to seeing you in person when you guys do that. Deon, always good to chat to you and tap into your mind as to what's happening in this space, this ever-changing and fast-paced world of technology that we're living in. Deon Geyser is the Chief Executive Officer at Liquid Intelligent Technologies SA. As always, Deon, it's such a pleasure to host you, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Aki, and thanks for your time.